I'm legally insane, and today I'm going to teach you how to make time for video games, how to balance work, life, and video games. Can it be done? Let's get started. Because you have to understand that the only work-life video game balance that I am getting is when your mother comes over on a Friday night for an all-night retro game fest. And when I say all night, I'm talking all night.
That's what I do all day long. That's what I do.
So I was recently asked by a well-known viewer and a few other legally insane comrades. And they asked me, how do you balance work, life, and video games? You're playing all these RPGs all the time. You just beat Steins Gate. You put over 40 hours into Steins Gate. You put 155 hours into Octopath Traveler. Yeah, some of that I feel it was me sleeping in my chair, so it's impossible to know just how many of those hours were gameplay, but I put 155 hours or more into Octopath Traveler. I play a lot of RPGs, I play visual novels. These are very lengthy games. Try playing Morrowind for the Xbox, OG Xbox. These are great games, and great games require a lot of time. A lot of time and effort need to be put into these games. King of Dragons, Super Nintendo beat 'em up. I could put 100 hours into that game. And guess what? You're not going to beat it on the first try. And the replayability, let's talk about replayability. It's a two-player co-op game. You can beat it on single player, 5 different characters. Beat it on multiplayer with multiple different friends. There's several friggin' 55 playthroughs already. And then even if you do beat it on 2-player, well, there's 5 characters. So you're going to have to try all the different combinations and try to beat the game with all the different combinations of characters on 2-player. So what is the secret? How do you balance work, life, and video games? How do you make the time? The secret is very simple. I've been doing this secret my entire life. And the secret is, and this is the secret that nobody else tells you. I'm the only one that's going to tell you the real secret. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. They are lying about it. I don't care what you say. Oh, Joe Smith told me otherwise, and he never lies. Joe Smith is a lying SOB, and you know it. Joe Smith probably murdered 3 people. Why are you listening to Joe Smith? So again, how do you balance work, life, and video games? And the simple answer is you don't. That's the answer. That's the secret. And the only one that's giving it to you straight is me. I'm giving it to you raw. I'm not sugarcoating it. You don't. There is no such thing as balancing life in general and video game playtime. It doesn't exist. In order to make time to play video games, you are sacrificing something. You're giving something up, something important on top of that. It's not like, what am I giving up, just sitting on the couch eating potato chips? No. That has sacrifices too. That's costing you something as well. So you are giving something up, and that typically means it could be anything. It could be that your house isn't very clean. And that's the sacrifice that you're making. I know, because that's a common one for me as well. I try to keep my game room as clean as possible. And I still clean. It's not like I'm living in a hoarder's home, although sometimes it does look like a hoarder's home. And that's the sacrifice that I make for my collection behind me and the time that I put into great classics like Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo. One of the best games ever made. You want to make time for Final Fantasy III, which I recommend you do, you are going to sacrifice something. And maybe you're thinking, well, my house is super clean. And I still make time for video games. Okay, well then you're sacrificing something else. There's always a sacrifice. All that time 155 hours that you put into Octopath Traveler, you could have started a business. Why didn't you do that? Oh, well, my business might fail. Yeah, of course it might fail. That's normal. You might start 25 businesses before one of them finally takes off and succeeds. You haven't even started one yet. You haven't started one out of 25. You're playing Octopath Traveler instead. Which I'm not bashing that choice. I made that choice. And I don't regret it at all. I love Octopath Traveler. I had a love-hate relationship with that game. The whole way through, it was a love-hate relationship. But I kept hearing that it gets better at the end. It gets better toward the end. Better toward the end. The latter half of the game, it gets real good. And they were right. It did get much better. And I left with very fond memories of Octopath Traveler. Great music. Oh my gosh. Classic. Absolute classic. Or how about playing video games with friends? Is that considered sacrificing something? I mean, yeah, absolutely. You're building friendships, though. There's positive outcomes to playing video games. Okay? You got to understand that as well. There are some positive outcomes and positive effects of video games, especially playing video games with friends. You're building friendships. You're building relationships. And you're having fun while doing it. And you're bonding. You can bond with friends and family playing video games. In fact, there is really no other better way to bond, in my opinion, than a brother and sister or brothers, sisters, whatever, playing video games together. 2-player co-op. Or you and a friend in general. I have never bonded better via any other method in my entire life other than video games. And you know what? Sometimes that means ruining a friendship as well. But that's also a bonding experience. Sometimes you get in friggin' fist fights over video games. And that's normal. I have fond memories of that. I used to practically get into fist fights playing Diablo 1 for the PlayStation 1. A 2-player co-op. Yeah, we got in fist fights all the time. Killing each other in the game. In full loot. You can loot your buddy. You can kill your buddy and loot his ass right in front of him. All he can do is watch. He has no choice but to sit there and watch. Oh, great game. Yeah, great memories. So there are people out there. They might have a lot of video game time, but in reality, their house looks like a freaking hoarder's home. Okay, or maybe their bathroom is dirty. Right, guys, you have to understand that the only work-life balance that I am getting is when your mother comes over for a good old-fashioned all-night retro game fest. And I'm talking all night. She comes over, cooks me up a nice meal. Right before I rail her all night 69-0 in Gang Beasts. Yeah, we're playing Gang Beasts for the Nintendo Switch all night. I'm railing her 69-0 undefeated. She loves it. Guys, she loves getting railed in Gang Beasts. That is her favorite game. She loves it. Great game, by the way. 2-player, 3-player, 4-player. You can do up to 8 players on the PC version. Yeah, the Nintendo Switch, unfortunately, it's only 4-player. But yeah, we're playing that all night. All night. 69-0, undefeated. So that's the reality of the situation. There is no such thing as making time for video games. And if you do make time, it means you're giving something up. But if you're playing something like an Octopath Traveler, a die-hard arcade for the Sega frickin' Saturn, you're playing the Sega Genesis, oh, it's worth it. It's worth it. I don't mind having a dirty toilet for a while. I don't mind having a dirty toilet. I don't care. If that means playing Gain Ground for the Sega Genesis just because I have a dirty toilet, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I'm willing to do it. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I am trying to get to over 9,000 subscribers. On my way to collecting over 9,000 retro video games. Of which case I've realized I don't have space for 9,000 video games. So my home is starting to look like a hoarder's home as well. Okay? That's just the way it is. Try collecting over 9,000 games. Try it. You tell me how you're going to fit 9,000 games in your house. You tell me that. You know how many shelves I have? I don't exactly have space for 6,000 shelves. So you tell me what you would do in this situation. And by the way, here on this channel, if you're new to the channel, I do a lot of retro gaming content. I talk about retro game prices, and I love the Nintendo Switch. Great console. If you don't have a Switch, please do yourself a favor. Go out right now. Purchase a Nintendo Switch and get 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim.